Now, to take you through the morning papers, here with us to review them are the political editor of the Sunday Mirror, Nigel Nelson, and the journalist and author, Gemma Forte. Welcome back to both of you. Nice to see you again this morning. Now, we're kicking off, Nigel, aren't we, with an intriguing article. This is on the front page of the... no, it's not. It's page 7 of the Telegraph, about Boris Johnson. And the headline says, Johnson believes he'll be back in a year.
Yeah, frightening, isn't it? This comes from his former aide, Tim Montgomery, who himself became disillusioned with Boris Johnson. But he says that the Prime Minister really believes he'll get the recall to come back and save the nation at some point next year. And that obviously is sort of enhanced by that rather strange sign-off that the Prime Minister made at PMQs on Wednesday, the hasta la vista baby comment. And you've also got 7,500 Tory members who signed a petition saying that they want him back. Now that represents 5% of the membership, which is actually quite high. But Steve Baker is also quoted in this particular piece of saying that it's completely bonkers because the government would collapse if he did come back. And of course, when the Privileges Committee report on whether he misled Parliament, Boris Johnson may no longer be an MP anyway.
Well, that's true. That would prompt a by-election if they found against him, I guess. Gemma, what do you make of this? Because there are a lot of Tory members who feel a bit disgruntled about the way that Boris Johnson left office or is due to leave office. I mean, is that a signal, do you think, of splits within the party?
Well, personally, I just think it's why we desperately need a general election. Because actually, yes, there will be a minority of people who think that Boris Johnson's the best thing since sliced bread and he should still be there. But we have to remember why he ended up having to go. And it was because of a series of scandals, quite frankly. You had the Pincher one, you had the fact that he tried to change legislation to support Owen Paterson, you had Partygate, which wasn't just a piece of cake, it was a whole culture of partying during lockdown, which resulted in 126 fines within Downing Street during that period. And I could go on. So this idea that he would come back to me feels very Trumpian.
And very quickly, though, I mean, is a general election really what the public wants at a time of a cost of living crisis? I mean, would that be a bit of a distraction when there are really serious issues for the government to get their teeth into?
Yeah, absolutely. But so is the leadership contest, and so is the fact that, Priti Patel isn't turning up to certain meetings at the moment. Dominic Raab seems to be missing in action. There seems to be a general feeling that nobody's in control right now, and we've got the leadership contest until September. So, listen, I'm sure there's lots of people who don't want a general election, but polls show that people are absolutely ready for one.
OK, and Gemma, your choice next is in The Express. This is EU sues Britain again on Brexit, they say.
Yes. So this is the EU launching some legal action against the UK for breaches of the NI protocol, alleged breaches. They're concerned about customs enforcement, excise rules and VAT. Now, look, this is the deal that Boris Johnson signed and that he said was fantastic. It took 5 painstaking years to negotiate. Nothing was hidden in this. It was all there in black and white, and one would assume many people had their eyes all over this before it was signed. So the worry is that there is a certain faction of the Tory party and people like Liz Truss and so on who just think the answer is to tear up the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is very worrying because that in turn could destabilise the Good Friday Agreement and therefore peace in Northern Ireland. Furthermore, the US have a very dim view of what's going on over this, and I don't think there would be a trade deal with them in the future, in the immediate future, if we were to go back on it. It's a question of trust as well. You can't sign an agreement and then just decide you don't like it. If any of us buy a house or sign a work contract, you can't just then do what you like and expect no one to raise an eyebrow. It's not ideal. And then,
Sorry to interrupt you, Gemma. I'm just going to get a quick word from Nigel on this and try and get as many stories in as we can. I mean, Nigel, the government would say we're within our rights to take another look at this. We want to fix the problems for Northern Ireland, and it's in no one's interest that the legal action is being taken.
No, it isn't. But I mean, the whole point is that Brexit is not done. And as Jim has just said, that we did sign the treaty. We said that, look, this is okay. We're quite happy with the arrangement. And now we want to renege on the whole thing. The problem just goes back to 2016, that nobody put enough thought into what happens when we share a land border with Europe as Northern Ireland does with Ireland. And that's what should have been sorted out as we were going into Brexit, not now, we're 5 years down the line.
Okay, let's move on, Nigel. Inside the Eye, Extinction Rebellion protests do work, and this has come from Zach Goldsmith.
Yes, the Environment Minister, and I'm actually quite surprised that he made that comment. I guess that protest actually does work. It does influence government, but only in the same way that, for instance, IRA violence worked. Although I'm not making a comparison here apart from the principle and certainly not the practice. But the whole thing is that it doesn't make it right. And so the idea that you can glue yourselves to motorways and stop ambulances getting through and people getting to work, that seems to me Extinction Rebellion going too far and alienating the public rather than getting them on side. Yes, I can see it would pressurise government. No, I don't like very much the way that the Tory leadership candidates are breaking away from our climate change promises, but I don't think Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain are going the right way about it.
What do you think about this, Gemma? I mean, it's been a debate that we've been having, haven't we, since we've seen some of these protests. They would say they consider the climate crisis a real emergency and they'll do whatever it takes to draw attention to it.
I think that's right. The thing is, listening to David Attenborough very, very recently, poor man, I think, he's very elderly now, and he's talking about civilization going to pot and there not being enough crops to feed the world and mass migration and all these things. And the world is heating up no matter what. If you look at any peer-reviewed study on climate change. And so I would say Extinction Rebellion aren't the same as, or shouldn't be compared to the IRA in their tactics, because they haven't employed violence. Gluing yourself to something or stopping cars doesn't equate in the same way. And it might be in the fullness of time we look back at these people and think, why on earth didn't we listen to them?
Okay, we haven't got time, unfortunately, Nigel, to talk about the glut of fruit, which is very welcome, according to The Sun. I know you've been wanting to talk about that, but people will have to read it for themselves, I'm afraid, in tomorrow's paper. But we are out of time. It's been lovely to have your company this morning. Nigel and Gemma, thanks very much indeed for taking us through the papers this morning. Do stay with us on Sky News Breakfast. We've got plenty for you coming up in the next hour on Travel Disruption.